Hey guys, Laura here. I'm going to break down this history essay with you today from the 2016 paper from the United States and the World topic, the question about the strengths and weaknesses of the US economy. Now, before I get into the actual essay, you can see there in front of you the different aspects of the question and the marking scheme, etc., that I'm going to go through, but I'm not going to go through the entire essay with you today. But you will be able to find a fully annotated version of the essay on Studyclix if you would like a bit more detail on the other paragraphs that I don't mention today. It's always a good idea as well, guys, to have a read through the entire essay before we get into it, just so it's kind of clear in your head what I'm actually talking about. So let's get into it. Let's look at this particular question. Why might you choose this question, and what do you need to be aware of when you are making your choice? So I always first of all look at the dates if dates are mentioned. Make sure that your essay obviously starts off at 1945 and even a little bit before that to set the scene, but that it has to go all the way up to 1989, even a little bit after in your conclusion. But the marking scheme will say you have to go all the way up to 1989, so be careful of that. Always look out for that little 3-letter word, guys, and. That tells you that there are at least 2 parts to this question. You have to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the US economy. You don't have to speak about them in equal, length or detail, but you do have to speak about both. Be careful of that. Now, in this instance, referring back to the question will mean that you are referring back to the strengths and weaknesses. And that to me is exploring the results of all of the economic changes and advances that were made. So ask yourself, when you're talking about the different aspects of the economy, what did it lead to? What did it create? What did it allow for? And some of those answers will be positive and some of them will be negative. The positive ones obviously show a strength and the negative ones show a weakness. And that's something to kind of just be aware of before you start writing your actual essay. Because remember, and just to zoom in on the marking scheme in relation to that and a few things to think about, the examiners are told to make sure the candidate is treating the set question. Are they excellent in their treatment of the set question? Very good or fair? So what that means is, are you answering the question that is being asked of you on the day? Or are you simply throwing down all of the information that you know about the US economy? Or are you twisting it so that it is focused back on the set question on the day? And then on top of all of that, as if that wasn't enough, are you giving accurate and substantial information in relation to that set question? Are you giving enough statistics? Are you giving the detail of the date? Are you just giving the year? Or are you just giving, the month? Or is it accurate and substantial information? Those are the things that the examiner is looking for. So does this essay do that? And for the most part, it really does. The intro is quite good in that it summarises the time period. It summarises 1945 to 1989. That is not an easy thing to do. I mean, you're going to go now and write 4 or 5 pages about that time period. And this introduction sums up basically what happens. That's a nice way to start your intro. In this instance, I do think it would be important to explore the words of the set question, like I've already mentioned. Explore the word strengths and explore the word weakness. And just make it clear to the examiner that my interpretation of a strength or a weakness is what it created or what it led to, or the jobs that it created or that it took from, or, the poverty that it highlighted, or the relationship with different countries that it created. That's to me what a strength is and what a weakness is, so that you're clear to the examiner what you understand the question to mean. And that, of course, can help you as you map out your essay. Now, this intro does provide a map for the examiner and then for you. This person is going to look at the multinationals, and then it's going to look at the cracks in the economy and how the government then borrowed and how the moods and habits of the Americans were forced to change. And they're going to go through all of those things as if it was a list in the next few pages. So it's a well put together introduction that I just feel could explore the words of the set question just that little bit more. Now let's look specifically at a couple of paragraphs. Firstly, to look at paragraphs 1 and 2. The words of the set question, I'm sorry to repeat myself, but they're really important and they're not made clear enough here. In saying that, there is good expression and good context. The war had allowed the US to enjoy full employment and to increase productivity and development dramatically. So 1945 is the end of the war. That's where this essay starts. So before that, the war was on, and that's the effect of the war on the US economy. Ultimately, a very, very good thing. This essay also has good extensive knowledge, good use of statistics and facts. You can see all of the dollar signs there. You can see the really good examples of the amount of money that was available for the economy. Remember, your Leaving Cert history essays are not just separate chunks of information. There should be this kind of invisible thread running through your essay where the paragraphs can be so easily linked. So, for example, at the start of that second paragraph could start with something like, another aspect of World War II was the heavy investment into technology and research. A simple thing like that could provide that link or thread between the paragraphs. So keep an eye out for that. Now, while the first paragraph doesn't necessarily use the words of the set question, the second paragraph does talk about the effect of all of these things. That it made interstate and international airlines a commercial reality, that it allowed for huge space industry and created 400,000 jobs. That in itself is showing the effect of the growing US economy on the US and indeed on the world. But in terms of the words of the set question, you could just make that a little bit clearer and a little bit more explicit. All of this shows that at this point, the US economy was in a great position of strength. Something like that, using the words of the set question. Moving down the essay, guys, a little bit to paragraphs 8, 9 and 10. And you will see, as if you have read the entire essay, that the second bit of the essay is a series of these little short paragraphs. Now, that's absolutely fine. In fact, I love to see an essay that has a variety of paragraph length. Sometimes, and I think that's kind of the case here, it could be a sign that people are slightly running out of time and maybe running out of steam, because some of these paragraphs need a little bit more meat to them. There is good use of chronology here. The years are in order. This person had a good idea in their head of, okay, this happened and then this happened and I'm going to deal with this and then this. And the essay is laid out very clearly and it's planned very well. But for example, what I was saying about the more meat in it, a few statistics would really hammer home there the negative effects of these times. The federal deficit grew rapidly and national debt soared, leading to a global recession. Wouldn't you love to see maybe a couple of percentages there to highlight, the levels of unemployment maybe, or the rising costs of things, just to highlight how weak the economy had become, the negative effect of all of these things. Thus, then you are engaging with the set question in a far more explicit way. At the end of that third paragraph in front of you there, it explains stagflation, which is quite a complicated concept, but it's explained very clearly and concisely in this instance. It caused an even greater jump in inflation and led to stagflation, a combination of low growth, high inflation and unemployment. Nice, clear, relevant information. The final part, obviously enough, I suppose I'm going to speak about, is the conclusion. Does this conclusion finish strong enough? There are some strengths here. It does summarise the findings that have been made, and it does use the dates of the question as asked. Now, in saying that, there are a few things that need to be improved upon. You will see that in this conclusion it mentions in 1989 the only jobs being created in the US were low-paid service jobs. So when you are given a span of dates in an essay question, the final paragraph of your essay before your conclusion should deal with up to, in this instance, 1989. And then you give a separate general conclusion of everything up to 1989. Whereas this conclusion kind of combines that final paragraph with a conclusion. So I would prefer if it dealt with all of President Reagan's things up to 1989 and then that separate general conclusion, where you could introduce some overall statistics that summarise the impact of the US economy on the world, how other economies grew faster and the gaps were closing in manufacturing and communication, machinery, cars, that the US share of the world trade had declined, Those are the things that I would like to see in an overall general conclusion after dealing with everything up to 1989. So that brings me to the end, folks, of this essay breakdown today, which I hope you found very helpful. I want to remind you that the full essay is analysed on Studyclix if you would like a bit more detail on the paragraphs that I didn't zoom in on today. And I hope to speak to you all again soon.